This portable watercolor and mixed media notebook is bound using a traditional Kettle-Stitch. The spine is very flexible, so the book will lie completely flat when opened, but it is also very sturdy. You can see here that I'm holding it up by a single page and it's not coming apart. This project comes from Bound by Rachel Hazel, which you can find at the Ann Arbor District Library. I'm bending a sheet of watercolor paper along one side and then the other. When I encounter more resistance, I know that I'm bending against the grain. It's a little more difficult to do with the cover paper, but you can figure out the grain by rolling or bending it. Do the same with the book board. You can even mark the grain direction with a pencil. It's important for this project that the grain of all your papers and boards runs up and down parallel with the spine of the book. Cut the stack of 7 watercolor sheets in half to make 14 sheets that will fold in half with the grain. Fold each sheet of watercolor paper in half. Take time to carefully line up your corners. Because the paper is so thick, you will need to crease it a few times. Cut 2 pieces of bookboard to these measurements, keeping the grain parallel with the spine. Do the same with the decorative paper you will use for the cover. First, make the covers. Start by gluing one side of your bookboard with a thin, even coat of glue all the way to the edges and corners. Put it glue side down on the non-decorative side of the cover paper, taking time to get it centered and lined up. Rub it with a bone folder on both sides. I put a piece of waste paper between the bone folder and the decorative side to protect the paper. Next, cut the corners off the overhanging decorative paper at a 45-degree angle. You can see that I left a little bit overhanging at the corner. Generally, you want that to be as wide as the thickness of the bookboard or a little more. If you cut it flush with the corner, the bookboard won't get covered. Glue the overhanging paper and about 3/4 of an inch around the edge of the bookboard. Starting at the top, fold the cover paper over the edge of the bookboard, making sure that everything is smooth and well glued down. You'll see that there's this little flap hanging over the corner at each end. Use your thumbnail and gently pinch it down. That way it will fold in nicely in the end. Do the same on the bottom edge, making sure that everything is smooth and the flap is pinched down. And then fold over the 2 remaining sides. Repeat for the second cover. Place the covers between layers of waste paper and press under something flat and heavy to dry. While the covers are drying, make the text block. Mark the spine of a folded sheet of paper 1 inch from the top and bottom edges. Punch holes with an awl where the pencil marks are. Use this first sheet as a template to punch the rest. Cut a piece of thread about 60 inches long and wax it. To sew, start with one sheet of paper with the spine facing you. Put your threaded needle through the hole on the right, going from the outside to the inside. Pull your thread a little way through and come out of the hole on the left. Pull the thread most of the way through, leaving a 3-inch tail on the right. Stack the second sheet of paper on top of the first and go in the hole on the left, right above where you just came out. Pull your thread through and come out on the right side. Once you've pulled your thread all the way through, pull everything tight, then tie the thread and the tail together in a knot. Now the first 2 sheets of paper are joined on both sides. Add the third sheet of paper and go in the hole on the right and come out of the hole on the left. Now it's time for our first kettle stitch. Stick your needle between the first and second sheets, making sure it goes behind and around the thread linking the 2 sheets. Now you have created a loop. Put your needle through that loop and pull everything tight so it makes a knot. That's your first kettle stitch. Place the 4th sheet on top and go into the hole on the left, and then come out of the hole on the right. Pull your thread tight and then make a second kettle stitch. Put your needle behind the thread linking the second and third sheets, and then pull it so it makes a loop. I've caught the loop with my fingers here so it's easier for you to see. Put your thread through that loop and pull everything tight. I like to sew text blocks at the edge of a table under a strong light so I can see the holes in the paper. I use a small 1-pound weight as a third hand to keep the pages from moving around while I work. When pulling the thread taut, don't pull outward like this because you might rip the pages. Always pull the thread parallel to the spine. You will continue this pattern until you have sewn all 14 sheets together. When you have made your last kettle stitch, just make a second one in the same place to fasten it off and cut your thread, leaving a 3-inch tail. Finally, we'll glue the covers to the text block. Start by covering the exposed bookboard on the cover with a thin sheet of glue and set it aside. Put a sheet of waste paper under the first page of the book. Start by taking the thread and gluing it down against the page. Then glue around the edges of the paper all the way up to the edges and corners. Then, making sure that everything is carefully lined up, place your cover down on top of the glued page. Open the book and make sure the page is completely glued to the cover by smoothing it down with a bone folder. Repeat for the other side. This is a project that you definitely want to wrap in waste paper and dry under something flat and heavy overnight.